For those of you who don't know me, I am Andrea Owen and I run the joint over here at Your Kick-Ass Life. Thank you for joining me, whether you are here live with us or you're watching the replay. Typically, when I come on these videos, I am talking to you about some kind of personal development topic. I'm talking about usually over the course of this whole year of what year are we in? 2017? Oh man. I've been talking about my first book that I wrote, 52 Ways to Live a Kick-Ass Life. I'm shifting gears a little bit, probably for these last few weeks in December, and I'm going to be talking to you about this book, How to Stop Feeling Like Shit. More specifically, bringing you some value, bringing you some wisdom nuggets, things that I've written in the book, and maybe things that I didn't write in the book that got left out for whatever reason. Today, I am going to actually read you parts of the introduction. I've never done this before. For those of you that listen to the podcast, say, hey, I'd love for you to leave a comment. Even if you don't listen to the podcast, I always ask people every week to leave me your favorite emoji. I feel like we use the same emojis over and over again, and we have our favorites. And I always love to know what people's favorite emoji is. So if you want to drop that in the comments, cool. I would love to see it. And really, I talked on the podcast this week, for those of you that are listeners, it came out yesterday, actually, where I read to you the table of contents, because obviously that is what the book is all about. And I can go through that today. But more specifically, I think that maybe some of you might be new to me who are scrolling through your feed and you're like, who's this lady? And I wanted to read to you the introduction, or at least parts of it, because in that introduction, I tell part of my story. We all have a story. You watching this, you have a story. And my story really brought me to where I am today. It brought me to my knees first, I'll tell you that much. But really it was the catalyst. I like to say it kind of shot me out of a cannon into a better life for myself. My story forced me to look at things that I didn't want to look at. It forced me to take responsibility for a lot of my behaviors, much of those that I write about in this book. It really forced me to start living my life from a place of what I wanted and what was important to me, rather than what I made up was important to everybody else. So before I say too much, before I start telling the story without actually reading it, I'm going to go ahead and start from the introduction. So in early 2007, I found myself at my own rock bottom. The man I was dating had convinced me to leave my job and my apartment to move away with him. As we were planning our move, I found out he'd lied about everything during our relationship, including fabricating a story about having cancer to cover up a drug habit. He had drained thousands of dollars from me, and that same week, I was holding a positive pregnancy test in my hand. After about a month after that, as I was completely out of money, he left me. I had been conned. I was humiliated, not to mention broke, jobless, had nowhere to live, and pregnant. To add insult to injury, the year before all of this, my husband had left me for another woman. So what I go on to say after that is really talking about how it felt to be in that place. And for anyone watching this, if you've ever been in that place of your own kind of rock bottom, it's easy to fall into that feeling of shame, really is what it was. I was ashamed of where I had ended up. And it was right during the time too where I was 31. So like my friends were either married or getting married. It was like a wedding shower or a bachelorette party or a baby shower around every corner. It was like that time in our life. And it was, to put it mildly, it was excruciating to be in this place where I was embarrassed and humiliated and ashamed all at the same time. I was angry at what people had done to me and what I had accepted in my life and what I had tolerated. So it was not a good time. I was asking myself the question over and over again, how did I get here? And how did I let this happen? And also the question, the painful question, raise your hand if you've ever asked yourself, what is wrong with me? How did this all happen? What is wrong with me? I thought that I was fundamentally broken. I thought that there was something that was different about me than everyone else. It's a very lonely place to be. I'm sure many of you watching can relate to being in that place. You might have different circumstances, but the feelings tend to be the same. In retrospect, again, this was all stuff that I realized when I was out of it and kind of had the opportunity to come up for air. I know now that in the years leading up to that all-time low, I had built a life in which I had made myself into something I thought other people wanted me to be. My spirit was shattered. I had no sense at all of what my own value might be. I was petrified of the world, panic-stricken over what would happen if people saw the real me. Terrified at the thought of people knowing just how much I didn't know. Scared they would find out how desperately I needed other people and wanted simply to love and be loved. I had built my life around perfectionism, self-sabotage, and the need for control, habits and behaviors I thought would keep me safe until they didn't. And what ended up happening after that was I made a decision to, for lack of a better term, heal my life. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what book I might find that in. I didn't know what the path looked like, but I had gotten to a place where I was done with that, with what I had put up with the way I was letting people treat me, and more specifically, the fact that I had ignored my intuition over and over again. My gut had been telling me, probably not a great relationship to be in. You might want to leave this relationship. And I was like, I justified up and down. I had become a master at justifying why I should stay in these relationships, why I should continue to date this person, why I should continue to behave the way I was behaving. These are coping mechanisms that we do. These are coping mechanisms that we don't know any other way. So we create it because we don't know how to be otherwise. I knew perfectionism. I knew control. I knew people pleasing and overachieving. That was like, yes, I could do all of those things in my sleep. And I didn't know any other way to be. And granted, my change of life didn't happen just because I worked on those things. Of course, there were family of origin things I needed to work on, as all of us have, even if we grew up great. I love my parents. I think they did a great job. But let's be honest, we get to a point in our life where we do have some things we need to work out from our family of origin. And I think that it was a combination of a lot of things that I had to heal in order to get to this place where I am now, a significantly different person with a lot of tools and strategies to be able to handle life's hard times, because stuff still happens. I'm a different person, but it's still like crap still happens, and I still need to wade my way through it. I just handle it much, much differently than I did before. I want to read one more part, and I think that I go on and how more so about how we feel like we're doing life wrong, right? We must be doing something wrong. And also what I see in personal development is this whole thing of, well, maybe you attracted it. Maybe you manifested it. I do believe there is a piece that I did attract certain people, especially relationships in my life, that were unhealthy because I was unhealthy. But I do not think that everyone every time somebody has something hard or bad happen to them, that they attracted it because they have a bad vibration. I think sometimes shit just happens. I think we get the diagnosis that we don't want from the doctor. We get, there are cutbacks at work and we get laid off. There are just sometimes things happen and there are no explanation for it. I don't think people are actually doing things wrong. I don't think people are having a bad vibration. I think just life just happens. And then I go on to say, but you wonder if you are doing it wrong because other people seem to have it all figured out and you don't. So you end up feeling lonely and confused. When that happens, you might buy some self-help books and listen to some empowering podcasts, hoping for some answers. They've got to be out there, right? The secrets, the explanation. You compile your list: meditation, yoga, green smoothies, follow this person on Instagram, and read all the books. But here's what I know to be true. That checklist won't make you happy and joyful. The answer, the key to your happiness, lies in connecting the dots from your past to your current behavior and shining the light on things that hurt. It's about facing the obstacles, working through and processing them, and loving yourself along the way. It's about accepting all the feelings and emotions that come along with it, even if they don't make sense and feel wrong, and starting the whole process over and over again. That is freedom and peace. This book is about how to recognize a shitty habit, choose a different one, and practice the new behavior. Get it wrong and try again, rinse and repeat. This book is about taking action, not just reading about it and thinking, that sounds good. No, it's about thinking, that sounds good, and it sounds a little uncomfortable. I'm going to do that, and I'll probably mess it up, but I'll keep going because I'm tired of feeling like shit. And the title came from, that's a great segue for me to talk about where the title came from. It's interesting, now that I see this on social media and I'm seeing people's comments about it, I hear a lot of people commenting or read people commenting and they're saying like, oh, is that a guarantee? I see like, is that even possible? And it makes me really curious. And I want to explain where the title came from. So after I picked myself up off the ground and started this, what's been now over a decade of healing, I noticed all these patterns that I saw specifically with women. And I'm gonna read them to you and what these patterns of behavior look like. And also I'm certified in the work of Dr. Brene Brown. She's a researcher who has dedicated her professional life to studying shame and connection and authenticity. And she calls some of the behaviors armor. So specifically in the work, she talks about perfectionism and numbing out and foreboding joy. And she explains them as like, these are the things we do that we think are going to protect us from shame, and they end up not protecting us at all. What I found is that there were a lot more of those behaviors, and they were things like control and overachieving, and again, numbing out, perfectionism, people-pleasing, self-sabotage, imposter complex. And what ends up happening, and I talk about this in the book, is that I do think they work for a little while. There's a saying in the rooms of recovery that says it works until it doesn't. And I think that's the case for a lot of these behaviors. But we get to a certain point in our lives where they stop working, where we just get tired of doing them. And the reason is because they don't align with our values, which that's a whole chapter in the book. They end up making us feel like shit. And we can't figure out what it is in our life that is causing us to not be happy. And there's got to be an answer out there. So we're meditating and the yoga and which I all think are great. Like I meditate every morning. I think it's really good. And these are just like a bunch of strategies to do. But I think that where the real work comes from is looking at your behavior, looking at your habits, looking at these coping mechanisms that you have adopted over the course of several decades. So what this book is, my editor, when she read the first manuscript, she goes, oh, this book is about, this is massive self-awareness. And I was like, yes, that's what it is. It's like this fast track of self-awareness for you to be able to see where you're doing this, where it's making you feel like shit, so that you can choose different behaviors. And that's all in there in the book too. It's not just about like, here's all the things you're doing wrong, good luck with that. It's about, here are the things that you're doing that we all do, that I still do, that I have to pay attention to as well. And here are some solutions. And let's work on it together, because these are so common. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read the table of contents for you. And if you listened to my podcast episode yesterday, you already heard them. So chapter 1, being an asshole to yourself, learn to manage your inner critic. 2, go away and leave me alone. Isolating and hiding out isn't protecting you. Raise your hand if you're a big isolator and you don't like to tell people your problems. You think you can just power through, soldier on. Chapter 3, checking out. Are your numbing mechanisms still working for you? Chapter 4, compare and despair, the never-ending mindfuck. Chapter 5, the demolition derby of your life, self-sabotage. 6, feeling like a fraud, the imposter complex. 7, the dog and pony show, people pleasing and approval seeking. Let me have like click a like or a love or an emoji if I'm saying any of these that resonate with you, where you're like, shoot, that's me. Because I would click like on every single one, because yeah, every single one. Perfectionism prism, self-destruction at its finest. 9, being strong, the elusive tough exterior. 10, just let me do it. Start letting go of control. 11, the sky is falling, bracing yourself for catastrophe. 12, the blame game. your ticket to disconnection. 13, zero fucks mentality, cynicism on steroids. 14, nobody likes a slacker, the downside of overachieving. And number 15 is, chapter 15 is all solution based, and it's about your values. I'm so excited for that chapter because if you read my first book, I talked about it briefly in there. This book is much juicier. What I want you to do is figure out not just what your values are and name them. I want you to know, there's an analogy we use in the book, and I say we because my editor, I have to thank her, she helped me come up with this. But it's not about just like when you have a kid, you name it, right? And then the real work comes from actually raising the child, right? That's the same with values. You can name your values and say, oh, I have a value around courage and spirituality and integrity and giving back. Well, what does that actually look like on a day-to-day basis? What does that look like when you're confronted with a situation where it's actually easier for you to not honor your values, when it's easier to people please, when it's easier to just try to control it or overachieve or any of the other behaviors, when it's actually really uncomfortable to honor that value? That happens a lot. And both are uncomfortable, but we've just gotten used to the easy way. And that's what I want to uncover for you in this book. So I am also offering a free book club for you all that I'm leading, because I don't want you to just read it and then you're like, that's nice, and it goes away. At the end of every chapter, there are questions that look like this. And I have made some really beautiful PDF worksheets for you that I'm giving away for free if you buy a copy of the book, that you can actually, I don't like to write in my books. I don't know if anybody else does. It's like sacred, but for you to actually take notes and journal and work on this stuff, because this is personal development. This isn't, a novel where you read it and are entertained. This isn't just entertainment. I hope I'm entertaining a little bit, but this is about doing the work. So on January 22nd, I am kicking off a book club. I know many of you have already purchased the book and pre-ordered it and have asked to join the Facebook group. That Facebook group opens around that same time. Stay tuned, ladies. And it's free. It's 4 weeks long. It's guided by me. I will be in there doing videos like this, answering your questions about it, because I want you to do the work. I want you to grow and stretch and learn so much about yourself. So the difference is going to look like this. So here's the A and B. And people ask me this all the time, like, how is your life different? Do you not do any of these behaviors? And I'm like, no, I still do them. Like, I still struggle really. Control is probably my hardest one. And it's now that I recognize when I'm in it so quickly, like imposter complex is going on, maybe a couple of minutes, I realize that those thoughts are processing, and I'm like, oh, that's what that is. And I can choose something else. Instead, how I used to be, and how maybe many of you are, we do these behaviors and we let them kind of take us away. We have it be it's our baseline. And so the win I want for you to have is that you know quickly when you're in it, you recognize it. You know what your triggers are. You know almost immediately that you're in it. And yeah, it's uncomfortable and you're like, ah, dang it, here I am again. And that you have the toolbox and the strategies to go out and do behaviors that, I get fired up about this, y'all, and to make you proud of who you are, so that you can have better relationships, so that you can have more self-confidence, so that you can trust yourself more, so that you can make decisions faster and feel better about it. That's what this is all about in a nutshell. So I hope that you join us. I'm going to pop the link in there. You can order it. You can pre-order it online. It's going to be in bookstores on January 2nd. But if you pre-order it, again, there's that class, and there's a bunch of prizes too that I'm going to be giving away on January 2nd for anyone who buys the book then. Free sessions with me, free spots in my online classes, fancy journals that I'm sending out, gift cards, all kinds of stuff. It's a big party. January 2nd is my actual birthday of this book. So I hope you will join us. And thank you so much for bearing with me through this almost 20-minute video. I'm here most every Thursday, unless it's a holiday or something like that, at noon Eastern time, diving into some kind of personal development topic. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and hope to see you in the book club starting on January 22nd. Bye-bye.